Hello guys, welcome back to Techno Guy. As promised, I will be going through a quick rundown on how to create your first table, your first app, and get right into designing your own business CRM. This one is going to be geared towards real estate investing, but we're going to go through some basic mechanics first that you can. It's universal as far as business systems. You're probably going to implement this, or it's a common one. So let's just dig in. Okay, so what I did is I went over to Power Apps. If you don't have Power Apps, you're gonna go over get a Microsoft Office subscription. If you don't already have a Microsoft Office 365 subscription, then you're gonna go to makepowerapps.com. That's gonna take you here. And then what I'm going to do is, my first example is going to be real simple. One of my promises were that you're going to be able to interconnect multiple platforms: AWS, Google, and Microsoft. And this is going to be one of my examples. So we're going to create you're going to see this right here. This is your dashboard. We're going to create a canvas from a canvas app from blank. I'm going to call this test products, and you have format. You can either select tablet or phone. I usually start off with tablet. You'll see why later. You can play with the dimensions later, so don't get stuck on this one. Create. It's going to take a second. It's doing some stuff in the background. Okay, now we're ready to go. So they're saying add an item or connect data. So down here on your left hand side, you're going to see this little data icon. Click on that, and we're going to add data. Google Sheet. So I'm going to look for that. I'm going to find mine. You'll see your Google account if you have one. And I'm going to go find products, because I created this ahead of time to speed up some. Okay, so product list main. Okay, and then on this product list, I have two sheets. The first sheet is the main product list, and then the second sheet, I use it as a lookup table, and it's like for a category. So for now, I'm going to select the main product list, and I'm going to connect it. Once you have connected, you'll see it listed over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this insert, or I'm going to go up to the top and hit insert. You can click it over here as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gallery. You have a couple different options here. I'm going to click vertical, and I'll break these down in more detail. Right now we're just trying to cover the basics. And then you see this gallery pop up. Now over on the right hand side you see data source. Right now we don't have any data sources, but we did add the product list main. You can add multiple data sources here and start to build off of this, and you'll see as we move along how this works. So once I click on that, you'll see right here this changed. It populated with that actual data. And if I go over to actual sheets and show you what the spreadsheet looks like, these are the two sheets that I told you created: the product list main and the category ID. And you can see here that I have an ID number, and then I have the actual name. And we'll get into more of, I explained in another video about relational databases and how they actually work. But this is how I built this out. Now Power Apps, when you link the data, it'll generate its own column with a unique identifier, or UID or GUID. Okay, but that's just a unique identifier for Power Apps to say, hey, this is row 2 and this sheet in Google Sheets. Okay, it's doing the same thing over here. If you look on the left hand side, Power Apps auto generates a sheet. That's how it's keeping track of the data that's binded over here on this side. But you don't have to worry about any of that. I'm just explaining it a little bit just so you know what's happening. I'll get into more detail, granular detail, as we branch out in these. I'm just trying to cover some basic concepts right now. So as you see, we got this. We have this table here we generated. Right, we binded our data. Now here, this is called gallery 1. It's probably best to start naming these. So I'm going to say product gallery. Okay. That's screen 1. And we're going to call this main screen. Your naming schema is going to be important. It sounds like it's like I'm being fickle about it, but you should start to get in a good habit of naming these things properly or coming up with a naming schema. So mine is, whatever the main screen is, underscore screen, or underscore what the item is. So this was a gallery. It would be it could be underscore button, underscore form, but you get the idea. And this is just, once you start adding a lot of things in here, this is going to make more sense, but it's best to start getting organized now. So then the next thing is, you see how I click on this? Now this has all its own little properties. Okay, and if you look over here on the left, it's called the next arrow. Okay, so this is an icon, right? And then we can tell this to do something. Over here you have a list of things or properties for this thing, and then over here you have FX. Power Apps finally gave a name for it, and it's called Power FX, but it's low code, no code programming language. But if you're efficient with Excel, or you know anything in Microsoft Excel, you're going to be able to understand this very fast. Okay, that's the way it's written. But also there's some helper code on here. And the main takeaway on this is, and I'll show you, is we're going to follow line by line, but you'll see how this will actually start to help you as you build things out. So if I was to hit period, or here, I'll use another example. We'll add a new screen, new blank screen, and this will be called, we'll call it edit screen. Okay. And on the edit screen, we're going to have a form, an edit form. And this edit form is going to be the stuff in our products. Okay? So say we want to edit the product, we want to add a new product. You're going to need to edit. So that's that. And we can edit some fields. We're going to say in this form we want the item, we want the description, what's the retail price, the unit price, and we'll say the category ID, and we'll explain more of that later. And then boom, you see it adds it all into the form, and then you can play with each of these fields here if you needed to make something custom. I'll explain more of that later, but you get the gist of it. Everything's right here. And then this overall property, you see how it's highlighted or selected. You can also manipulate some of the structure. Say I don't want 3 columns, I want 2 columns, and voila, it just sort of snaps it in. When you're using edit forms, or when you're using forms, or you're using galleries, Microsoft Power Apps will automatically make the data responsive, meaning that if I was to test it out, so if you go up to your right hand corner right here and press this play button, or you hit F5 on your keyboard, it's going to run the application. Right now we don't have anything to show it, or we're not telling it to show anything, so you're not going to see anything, but it will be responsive to the screen. So I'll go back to the main page here. Okay, and I hit play. You see, if I shrink my screen a little and I go back to this, see, it sort of adjusts it automatically. But that's the responsiveness thing, and I'll explain more of that later. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so if we hit this button, it's going to take us to this page. Okay. So we're going to use the on select option, and what we want this to do is we want it to navigate. And see, I only hit the 2 letters, but this is what I'm talking about with the helper. We click navigate, and then you see up here it's helping you fill out the rest of this these parameters that you need. So now it's looking for the target. Target is going to be what page or what it is we're trying to do when you hit select. So we're going to go to the edit form, and then see, I didn't finish typing again. It knows what we might be trying to type. So I'm going to say go to the edit screen. And now if I hit comma again, it's going to take me to what my next option could be. And this is a transition. So this is an effect, right? What's it going to look like when it switches to that screen? So I'm going to say slide the cover to the, or we'll fade to that screen. And then if you hit comma, it'll show you the next thing. You can add data to it, and if you hit comma again, you can do a couple different things. You can get granular. But right now we're just going to close this bracket, and we're going to test it. Okay, so now if I hit this, it takes us to that screen, but it doesn't know what to show once we go to that screen. It says we're saying navigate to the screen, but when we get to the screen, this screen doesn't know what to show. It just took us there, but the data doesn't know. So for the data source, we're selecting products, but we're going to say that this item is going to be this item is going to it needs to know what it needs to display. So when I select item, I'm going to point back to the product gallery. Remember, this is where our naming comes in, and naming schema comes in and helps. So that product gallery, and I hit period, and that period means, you know, what type of other parameters from that item do you want to add in here. In this case, we want selected, the thing we selected, right? And then as soon as I hit enter, voila, you see you have everything here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a button. So I just clicked up here, button, and I'm going to say go back. Okay, and then again, now that I have this selected, right now on selected equals false. Change this, and I'm going to say navigate back to the main screen, and we'll say our transition is going to be cover right. Close the bracket. Now if I hit play, bam. Okay, let's see, I'm going to go and modify this item, and you see it knew that we selected this item, and we can go in and modify this. So here's a cool thing here. So now I did modify it, right? Go back. Let's see if this actually changed in the table from Google Sheets. Okay, caulk. We changed it to $7.99. Did it save it? We'll refresh the screen. It's still $6.99. Why is that? It says $7.99 here. So we wrote this out, but we didn't tell it to save. So we need to make it save. We're going to go ahead and add a button. This button's going to be called save. So the button's called save, and on select we're going to say submit form, and we didn't name this, shame on me, but it's form 1, right? It's over here, and then you can tell because look at it highlighted green and saying we're saying submit that. And let's see, is there any other options? Submit form 1. Okay, we're just going to close this bracket, and we're going to go and try now. Save. Boom. And now let's see. Let's see if caulk was modified. Sure enough, look at $7.99 saved. Okay, we'll go back and we'll say, nope, you're gonna be $5.99 today. Save. Go back here, $5.99 instant. Voila. And we're playing 2 different platforms. We're playing Microsoft Power Apps, and we're right over to Google Sheets. Okay, they each got their little pros and cons about it. If you want to scale out, this is not the best practice, but this is also a way to tie in your data. So if you have legacy systems, you have a lot of Google Sheets, this is a good way to funnel in here, and we can write some functions to write it to a main, you know, big boys database where you won't have to downsize or upgrade, and these things are automatically set up to scale out. But that we will go into more detail. I'll click our go back button that we set up and close this out. That's going to be it for today. So today we created a gallery with products. We were able to make it so we can go to the actual product. We can edit the data. We also learned how to bind data from a Google Sheet, so from an outside platform. We learned how to manipulate, save data, and navigate using buttons. Okay, and that's going to be it for now. If you guys got any questions, you like what you see, subscribe, and I will keep adding these. If there's something you would like to see, go ahead, shoot a comment, and we'll see you later.